For more, let's cross to Xavier Richet, who teaches economics at the University of Paris 3 Sorbonne Nouvelle. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to ask you.
Um,
I want to ask you about the timing because we're talking about an extradition request coming from the United States. You always have to explain this is not an order from the Trump administration as such.
well, I cannot give an explanation for that, but I think that it's quite surprising that it happens a few days after the meeting of Mr. Trump and Xi Jinping in Buenos Aires. So accordingly, there was more or less an agreement to discuss a truce and so on about the problem of taxation of Chinese export to the US. And finally, it seems that there is a judicial approach which should cope with the, let's say, last diplomatic discussion between the two countries' leaders.
But the justice system doesn't follow the logic of what's going on in Buenos Aires.
No, yes, it's a collusion. I mean, colliding two process. I think. I don't think that there is. Well, I mean, what is surprising is that at the same time you have this discussion, political discussion, and on the other you have this decision to extradite this lady.
The heat has been rising on Huawei. We saw earlier this week British Telecom saying it no longer wants to carry its 3G and 4G services. This sort of suspicion when it comes to Huawei and its close links to China's state apparatus and its military apparatus.
Well, I think that there are probably two things to consider. First, the problem of the threats that, of course, Huawei can be for, let's say, sensible sectors like defense and so on in countries like Australia. We have seen that, but also New Zealand. And we know that the US government now is putting some pressures on European governments like the British and the German to avoid to deal with Huawei in this sector. So it's the first thing. Second thing you have mentioned is the delivery of products to Iran, which is banned today by the US government. And thirdly, and maybe more importantly, I think that this problem comes from the strong opposition of the US against the technological, let's say, gap, technological advance or of some sectors in China. So it's clear that Huawei is, let's say, it's a great company which has, let's say, achieved a lot of things in terms of technology, in, let's say, equipments, smartphones, and so on. And most of its operation is outside of China. And the company is relying on the set of research departments in many countries, in Turkey, in Europe, and so on. And,
but our intelligence service is right to be worried. Is using Huawei equipment, does that make you vulnerable to spying and eavesdropping?
Yeah. Yes. So the problem now is that Huawei is trying, or has tried already, to be considered as a non-state-owned enterprises. It's true that if we look at the status, Huawei is not a state-owned enterprises. It's employees-owned enterprises, which is not very clear who owns what and what can the owners can do with their shares and so on. But they have tried to distance from, let's say, formally from the state-owned enterprises apparatus. But in a way, in another way, we have to consider that no companies in China is, let's say, independent or state-owned or private, or so-called private enterprises and so on, is under the control of the state apparatus. And of course, it's a big threat for countries which want to rely on this technology to be on there or not, to allowing maybe the state in China to have access to, let's say, sensible information. I think that we should consider these 2 points. First, let's say, threats concerning security of the equipment on the one hand, and secondly, filling the gap between, let's say, advanced companies and China. So maybe this decision is okay to keep, let's say, not out, but to keep a distance between China and the most advanced companies in
In the
developed
West.
world. Yes, in the West, yes.
Xavier Richet of the University of Paris, Sorbonne Nouvelle, many thanks for speaking with us on France 24.